Hey everyone, Bill Sheridan with the Maryland Association of CPAs. You know, faith in our government among the American people is staggeringly low these days, and one of the main reasons for that is that none of us have a really good sense for how the government is spending our money. See, there's no standardization of financial information in the federal government. The taxonomies and formats that one agency uses could be vastly different from the ones that another agency uses, and because of that, there's no easy way for us to access and compare that financial information. But there's a bill in Congress right now that, if passed, would change all of that. It's called the Data Accountability and Transparency Act, or DATA Act. It would require the federal government to publish all financial information in standardized electronic formats that would make that data easy to search and sort and compare. Opening the federal government's financial information in that way would make it easier to detect waste and fraud, and it would help the American people hold its government responsible for how it spends its money. Right? Government of the people, by the people, for the people, right? That kind of concept. So what does all this mean for CPAs? Well, Hudson Hollister has some ideas. Hudson is founder and executive director of the Data Transparency Coalition, which is spearheading this whole effort. And I spoke with him during a recent meeting of the coalition in Washington. Here's what he has to say.
Well, there's a growing movement in the U.S. federal government to replace disconnected documents with transparent data. And by transparent data, I mean information that's both electronically standardized and fully available online. And that's very important for regulatory filings. It's very important for the text of legislation. Today we talked about how important it is for spending information. The U.S. government's spending information is right now not available as transparent data. It's a bunch of disconnected reporting systems. Agencies report their finances to Treasury and their budget actions to OMB and their grants to the Department of Commerce and their contracts to GSA. None of those reporting requirements are in any way connected, and that means that it's impossible for the government to get a handle on its own spending. It's impossible for citizens to hold the government accountable for its spending. We talked today at the Data Transparency Breakfast about changing that, about replacing all of those disconnected reports with fully standardized data.
And what are some of the things that we can do once we get there?
Well, if this future does come to pass, if we do get consistent government-wide standards for spending data, that means it'll be possible to compare items of information from those different reports with each other. For example, you might be able to pull up a particular contractor from the contracting reporting system and see all the payments that it had received, which right now are part of a different system. You might be able to take a particular program and see not just its grants and its contracts, but also its internal spending in order to track the outlays on a program-by-program basis, maybe even compare those outlays to performance metrics. Right now, the grants, the contracts, the outlays, and performance are all reported separately, and most of them are not reported program by program. So that means more granularity, it means better analysis. There are many examples, and as the speakers from the Treasury Department's Fiscal Service told us this morning, we can't even predict all of them. Once the data is standardized and once it's fully published and available, analyses and ways of doing business and management will show up that we don't even know about right now. We can't even anticipate them right now. And it was interesting to me that today the Treasury Department, a government agency, is frankly admitting we don't yet know all those benefits. That's an exciting thing. That was one of the most exciting insights for me that came out of this morning.
Real quick, where are we as far as movement of the Data Act at this point?
Well, the transformation of the federal government's spending information from disconnected documents into transparent data is going to take years for sure. The Data Act, which passed the House almost unanimously on November 18th, and which passed committee in the Senate unanimously on November 6th, would take us part of the way there. If the Data Act passes, there will be a legislative mandate for the Treasury Department to set government-wide standards for all those different reports. Government-wide standards for financial statements, for payments, for budget actions, for grants, for contracts, for subawards. Now, even without the Data Act, the Treasury Department already has control over financial reporting and over payments. And what you heard today was that the Fiscal Service tends to start the job whether the broader mandate passes through Congress or not. Even without that broader legislative mandate, they're going to begin transforming the financial reporting and the payment reporting, which Treasury already runs, into transparent data.
Final question. What role, if any, do you see CPAs playing in this whole open data movement?
Well, CPAs, especially government CPAs that serve the government, have a vital role here because it's only CPAs who understand how government finance works now. It's only CPAs who can understand how those data standards are to be created and applied. And it's CPAs who are going to use the financial management tools that will be developed based on standards. So I'd encourage CPAs to pay attention to this area of policy, to attend our events. The Treasury Department and the Recovery Board are looking for input from the industry, and so I'm very happy that the American Association of CPAs came to today's event, and I hope they'll continue to be involved. The government needs input from the people who are going to use the data. CPAs are going to use the data. We hope CPAs will provide the input.